Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out to talk about blockchain this morning. I want to talk with you a little bit about Kaleido, the blockchain business cloud this morning. Kaleido is an advanced partner with AWS, and it's being incubated by Consensys. Consensys, whose booth, by the way, is all the way over on the other side if you want to come talk to us afterwards. Consensys is the largest blockchain company in the world. It's got a presence in over 30 countries now, and it's been around for quite a while, working with you through your blockchain projects as you've been progressing them from exploration to POCs to pilots and now on to production. And Kaleido is really a collaboration from Consensys, and it's been live now for the better part of a year. We're running over 1,000 blockchain networks around the world, and we now have mined over a couple 100 million blocks. So we've certainly learned a lot in working with you and running your workloads. But really the impetus behind Kaleido was to help make blockchain more simple and consumable by enterprises and government organizations around the world. And our mission really is to understand that with all the promise of this technology, we recognize that society won't benefit until enterprises are easily and readily able to adopt this at scale. So what we've really seen along the journey is there are some challenges to adopting blockchain that you may anticipate, but there are some others that seem to come as more surprises along the journey. Let me lay out a typical journey here. So starting with proofs of concept, this one may be an easy one. There's obviously a technology learning curve, right? There are multiple open source communities out there. You're thinking about Hyperledger. You're looking within Hyperledger at the different code bases. You're probably thinking about Ethereum, the largest overall ecosystem. You're learning about consensus algorithms. There's new programming languages. This is heavy in crypto, and on and on. So there's really this technology hurdle. And what we've seen in the market is, a couple of years ago, it was really hard to get going. We saw some scripts and templates come along. We're seeing more managed blockchains as a service, which is great to really get you going quickly. But as you try to progress that project then into a pilot, there's something that we're calling shared IT. And a lot of times you have to be working in blockchain for a while to really see this coming. But here's the concept behind a shared IT. If you're maybe a mid-size or a large business and you've got hundreds of IT systems that you're running today, and you think, okay, blockchain is just the next one of those. In some sense it is, but in another sense, this is different from every other technology that you deployed, fundamentally. And the reason that it's different is it's a network. It's a shared network, right? To get the benefits of blockchain, and we talk about kind of how the trust relationship evolved. If you're familiar in the blockchain space, you hear the term of trust, really changing the fundamentals of transactions and how contracts execute, which is really powerful fundamental concept. However, to get those benefits, you need to run in this network where there's a shared ledger, right? There's a common ledger, but in addition, there's shared business logic, right? The smart contracts themselves, these are common amongst all. And so maybe you're looking at, best case, these are partners that you're thinking about, but often they're competitors that are in the same network. And you're trying to work collaboratively to get this network up and then to keep it up. And that's what we mean by shared IT. It's the idea that you have some control in managing this network, but you're not in complete control. So if you think about one of those hundreds of systems and deploying it in a silo today, all the checks and controls to get something deployed through into production. Think about the risk team, there's the DevOps teams that gets involved, and there's approvals that need to happen, and only so many people are authorized to actually do the push and so on. Now think about that across this group. right? So shared IT is a really significant concept and something that we've worked closely with you and learned along the way. And we feel like a platform that's really purpose-built, for these tools around shared IT is necessary to help. And then, of course, getting all the way into production. Here you're taking all of these new things and you're marrying them with some traditional classical problems, right? How do we scale this? How do we make sure it's resilient? How do we make sure it's backed up? What's the right set of middleware to integrate this into our core back office systems? So it's really, when you think about these things together, it's really, I guess, not that big of a surprise that getting a blockchain project live is a bit of a formidable challenge. The good news is the technology is evolving rapidly, but there's also these kind of I'll call human elements or organizational elements that you really need to take into account in order to keep your project moving. With Kaleido, I mentioned the platform's been live for a while now. We're working with many of you all around the world. These are some projects that are either in production or they're going into production in the next couple of months. Large organizations, they tend to have done multiple blockchain projects, have learned along the way, and have really found that right project to invest in to get live. So let me show you a quick demo of how Kaleido works. So what you see now is we're just going to log into the console. It all starts with the concept of what we call a consortium. This is the group of organizations that are going to participate together on this blockchain network. We allow you to set up in different regions around the world. We allow you to bring your established organizational identity onto the chain, which is a significant hurdle to transacting in a private blockchain network. Now we're setting up an environment. We allow you to have, for these group of business networks, you can set up as many physical environments as you need, so dev, test, and prod. Once we set that environment up, now we're spinning up nodes. These are nodes within my organizational control. You can see we've exposed out some advanced concepts like how you're participating in with Consensys. We even give you multiple Consensys options to experiment with. Now I've got my nodes up. I'm looking back at my dashboard here. And what I want to do is I actually want to distribute this network, right? It's not just me. So I want to invite external participants. We have governance built in, so how do we inherit and pass on permissions, and so we can right-size the participation of all the organizations in the network. So I've fired off that invitation. Now that external party can create their own Kaleido account, can deploy their own compute, and participate in this same network. You're seeing some of the integrated tools because Kaleido is a software as a service. Really run it as a single unified platform, various integrated metrics, and so on. And that's all great, and in fact, AWS themselves have announced the blockchain as a service, which many of the other cloud vendors have, which is great, and I think it's appropriate, again, as you're getting going on your journey. However, kind of as the blockchain experts, one truth that we can distill down and share with you is that chain is really only 10% of your blockchain project, if that. Some of the projects that I showed earlier, some of the logos, if I look at their project, they have over 40 containers. And some of those are predictable, right? They're the apps, right? And that's fine. And that's not what Kaleido helps you with. And then there's the chain on the other end. But there are these components in the middle. Think of them as decentralized components. And increasingly, they're being deployed together in patterns. Here's a sample of architecture. So you can see the chain on the bottom, right? But there are all these interesting components like distributed file storage. So blockchains aren't great for holding large amounts of data. But you may want to deploy a pattern where you have a distributed file storage so that all participants get those larger objects, and they're anchored into the chain automatically, so hashes are stored onto the chain. There are other things, where you've set up, for example, your organizational identity, you have your corporate LDAP system or Active Directory or whatever, and you need to bridge your off-chain systems with your on-chain systems. So off-chain to on-chain identity, you have assets that maybe you've digitized, and whether it's money or other things, and you now need to represent those on-chain as well. There's a whole suite of components. There's data feeds, there's oracles, there's advanced cryptography components like HD wallets. And what we're seeing is these real projects really need a number of these core components. So just the chain will get you only so far. And increasingly, as I said, you want to deploy these components in patterns together, to work together to help accelerate your solution. So in recognizing that, we launched just earlier this month the first blockchain marketplace, the first decentralized marketplace. So kind of going well beyond the chain and going full stack with decentralized technologies. Some of these are about making it easier to integrate into the cloud itself. So a number of native AWS integrations. You can push snapshot backups of your node into S3. You can push logging and operational data into CloudWatch, and from there into Splunk or any of your corporate tools. You can integrate with Kaleido to easily take control of your user login credentials and so on. But on top of that, really those core decentralized components that are really critical to your success. And even going further, we've partnered with a number of additional leaders in the blockchain space who are doing a lot of the innovation. Some of these are industry specific, and I'm going to show you a couple of these right now. So some of these are industry specific, so maybe they're looking at a supply chain use case. And in the blockchain space, Viant is a really well-known entity there. We have these properties available, these products available, plug and play as part of the marketplace. So you can just click and go, and it's all pre-integrated into your blockchain environment. So here I'm showing you some of those core integrations with AWS. You can see some of the partner services here as well. OpenLaw is a really interesting one. They're in the legal smart contract space, so there's tons of innovation happening there. Clause is another one in that space. Here, I talked about distributed file storage. It's as simple as clicking Use on Kaleido, going through to your account. In this case, this demo does not have an environment yet, so there's a quick start to spin up an environment. And now you can see down in the member services area there, IPFS. But I don't need to stop there. I can grab additional of these components, deploy them together. Here's one called Chainlink. Chainlink is an Oracle service. So if you're familiar with blockchain, you know that it has to be deterministic. So how do I get data onto the chain? Well, there's something called an Oracle, and there's a well-known pattern of how to do this. So Chainlink is a very popular open source component that we've pre-integrated. Now what I'm showing you is our sample directory, where you can easily understand and learn how to use these components. In this case, I showed you IPFS. I showed you basically taking a sample file, in this case a famous painting, and pushing that through IPFS. That automatically, these IPFS nodes are peer-to-peer connected with each other, and it's distributed across the network. In the case of Chainlink, our sample will pull, if you think about data that needs to be live and current in order to execute a transaction, whether it's a foreign exchange rate that fluctuates constantly or something like that. So what you saw there is live data like that being brought into the chain in a safe way. Okay, so that's really the idea of the marketplace and kind of how important it is to go full stack. Something that we announced just this week is a set of new plans. We feel like these are the first plans that are released designed to work together. So these plans take you from your whole journey from exploration with the starter plan and POCs with team into pilots and production. And what we really found is this business network is really diverse. Maybe you don't see it right now. Maybe you're working on a pilot and there's just 3 or 4 of you that will collaborate closely. But oftentimes, ultimately, your business cases get to 20, 50, even hundreds of participants on this network. So when you get into larger numbers, there's no way you're going to get all of those banks or whatever industry you're in, retailers and so on, to agree on one place to run. It's important to be multi-cloud. It's important to be hybrid. That's a fundamental concept within Kaleido. But it's also important to understand that there are larger institutions or people more involved in the network. They want to play a more active role. We talk about them as validators or stewards of the network. And so we have higher level plans that enable that. Maybe they're active in the governance of the network. There are other participants that maybe need a node, but they don't want to vote and manage and help manage the network. So we've designed these plans to work together to really enable you to get all of the participants in your ecosystem live on the platform. Now, maybe to help forestall some questions, although I'm happy to talk with you in just a couple minutes at the end of this, I do want to give at least our point of view, and that is that if walking from left to right, we feel like there's, in this rapidly evolving space, there are these generations of technology. So a couple years ago, people were going out, grabbing open source code, fiddling it with themselves, falling in the ditch. Scripts and templates came along, which is a great way to stand up a node. Now we're seeing lots of blockchains as a service coming out, which again are great, and it's easy to help you get started. But what we covered is to be successful, it's going to be really important for you to be able to deploy a whole set of decentralized technologies together, pre-integrated. And then when it's time to scale your network, it's going to be really important to be broader, to offer more choice, to have the right plans, to be able to go multi-cloud and hybrid and so on. So Kaleido really stands alone in this space as the only what we call full stack platform with the marketplace and the most broad vision about where it runs. Okay, so I'm running up against my time here. I'm happy to kind of hang out in the back and chat more with you. As a reminder, the Consensys booth, if you want to talk with the blockchain experts, it's basically on the opposite, sorry to tell you, on the opposite side of the expo hall, almost exactly from here. It's booth 2932, and we'd be happy to chat with you more. So I want to thank you for coming out, and again, we're happy to talk more. Thank you.